Rise sometime. I have a daily reminder which reads, in fact, let me read this daily reminder. I got this I ordered stuff from Comfort, and they have these little cards they drop in the shipping. And this one says, if when you're overthinking, write. When you're anxious, move. When you're tired, read. When you're confused, walk. And when you're sad, exercise. And boy, do I believe in these. They are, you know, they speak the truth for sure. So just wanted to share that. All right. I am not going to keep you all waiting for too long. If anybody is pivoting and you would like to share where you're pivoting from, whether it's work, whether it's burnout, divorce, or you just don't know, you feel like you just want a change in your life, in your career, please drop it in the chat. Feel free to share. If you don't mind, we are going to talk about everything pivoting. How do you move from whatever it is that you feel so used to, or you might just be very tired of it and you want to try something else, but you don't know how. So that's what we're going to talk about here. And I'm going to introduce concepts that have helped me be able to manage my life through my transitions. I've been through several transitions, and I would hate to see anybody go through transitions as painfully as some of mine were. So, welcome to the Pivot Mastermind, and we are going to be talking about all things pivot. So, as I maneuver this PowerPoint, I wanted to introduce you to a concept that I have just learned, not just learned recently, that I've been aware of for quite some time, but I it took me a while to come to terms with it. And I finally did, because I realized that I can't run away from myself. Has any of you ever been called strong? If you don't mind sharing in the chat. Since you can't talk to me, you can share in the chat. Has any of you ever been called strong? I know I have. Yes, yes. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about it when people, up to this day, because I moved from Uganda here to the US with four kids on my own, and went through that major transition. And every time I talk to someone, they're like, "Oh my God, you are so strong. You are so strong. How do you do it?" Right now, I have teenagers. My 21-year-old is in college. I'm living with my 16, 14, and 12-year-olds, and athletes. So high school, middle school, high school for athletes, it's crazy. The schedule is just crazy. Now, people always call me strong. People have called me strong up to this day. They keep saying, "Oh my God, you are so strong. I don't know how to do it." Every time I'm talking to my friends and I'm telling them about my daily schedule. Dr. Hin, my coach, I was talking to her about my crazy June schedule. In Washington State, in the morning, we wake up for Fajr at 3:30. Isha prayer is at 11:30 in the evening. So you technically are not going to sleep early enough, waking up early to pray and trying to go back to sleep, and waking up early to do the runarounds with the kids or whatever it is I have to do, work and all of that good stuff. And I walk around like a zombie. Thank God today is a holiday, so I managed to get some rest so I can be ready for you all and be prepared for you. So what we're going to learn today is recognizing, for today's class, because we are talking about the strength pattern, we're going to be recognizing the patterns in our own lives that keep us stuck where we are. Whether you've been called strong or not, we are going to I'm going to show you what I mean by strong. If you've never been called strong, I am going to show you what I mean by strong, and trust me, we all have those characteristics. We're going to understand why these patterns have formed and why they were once necessary in our lives, and then we're going to distinguish strength that serves us versus the strength that suffocates us. And at the end, I have an activity for you, which is in your workbook. I hope you were able to download the workbook. We're going to go through that activity. So, 4 years strong was the best compliment anyone could ever give me. It got me into a business. I partnered with two. Um, I had moved back to Uganda. I partnered with two of my very good friends and did an agency, a recruiting agency, which we were able to grow to 6 countries. We were invoicing about $2 million a year, and that agency was we were doing great. We came into the market at the right time. That was in 2006 when we started. And I was with my business partners for 10 years. 2016 is when I left. And for the longest time, people, I've always been called strong for the longest time. And that partnership walked me into burnout, a divorce, and it totally dismantled my life. The partnership did not. It is my, I left the partnership in 2016. Sorry, yes, 10 years later in 2016. And 2 years in 2020 during COVID, I got a divorce, and my life has been in transition since then. It feels like it's been in transition since then, but with all that dismantling, I was able to build back my life. It was very hard. I cannot say it was easy. It was very hard. I had coaches, hired coaches for the wrong reasons, hired coaches for the right reasons. When you're in survival mode, there's so many mistakes that you make. And this is what we're going to talk about throughout these 5 days. Now, um, if you have not been, if you've been praised for your strength, it is something, sometimes you sit there and appreciate it when people recognize the strength in you. But what I want you to do today is to sit back and recognize, where is it that that strength is not serving you? You know, what if it's building a cage around you? All right. What if it is what if it's the very strength that's holding you back from whatever that next level or next chapter that you want to achieve, right? I was raised with a father who could not stop telling me that anything is possible, and he is the reason why I am the strong woman that I am. He gave me that strength. He was the person who, if he asked you to do something and you came back to him and said, "Oh my God, I do not know, I don't know how to do it." Hey, Elon, great to see you here. Thank you so much for joining us. So he was the type of person who, if you tried to do something and or he asked you to do something and you came back to him and said, "I'm not able to," he's like, "How's that? How's that? How is it impossible? It cannot be impossible." Somebody is joining us from Morocco. Good to see you here. Unfortunately, I can't see your name. Braskaish. I just see Braskaish. But yes, he would ask you, or right, he would guide you, and he would make sure that you understand that it is possible. It is possible for you to do whatever it is he's asking you to do. So, what the strength pattern does, if you have grown up as the strong woman, what the strength pattern does is it can create, it can cause certain traps. You can fall into 3 traps, um, which I'm going to explain in a little while. And I want us to be able to recognize if any of our patterns that we operate with today fall into that trap. Now, the 3 patterns are learned strategies. Your younger version could do them really, really well because they served a purpose. And as you became older, they served greater purposes. That's why you are where you are in life. And especially if is anybody here a firstborn in their family? Anybody here firstborn? No. I was my parent when my parents met, they each had a child. When so I was the first one. I am first for my mom. Yes. So I was the first one for my mom and my dad when they met. Prior to that, though, it was they each had a child. So being the girl, the first ones, Dr. Handy's second, aren't you lucky? Being the first one, I learned or I taught myself to be the kind of the caregiver in the family. You know, for my younger siblings, I never wanted to see anybody fall out of relationship with each other. I was always the one who's bringing everybody together. I was always the one who brought the peace. I wish I was second. I see so many people are saying they were second. But one of the smartest things our younger version does is how we build these traps is if you learned that love was conditional on performance, because you had to achieve something to be recognized, then you built, it became a trap. The responsible firstborn becomes the woman who can't let anyone carry the lead or carry the load. And I tended to do that. The girl let down by people that she, depended on becomes the woman who depends on no one, who depends on herself. Has anybody here recognized that pattern in them? I can do this. I don't have to wait for anyone to do it. If I don't do it, no one's going to do it. Has anyone recognized that pattern in themselves? And you don't do this intentionally. It's just a strategy where you just don't wait for anyone to do things for you. You just go ahead and do them. I know I've recognized that in myself. Right. Now, these are the things or the patterns that we create in our lives that become strategies that they do. Dr. Hinn says she does. Yes. They are the ones that we used to get us what we wanted, and they become conditioned in us. They become part of us. And these are the patterns that then we operate with in life, right? Now, I will share with you later what we call the character strength. It's a an assessment that you can do in your own time. What this assessment does is you share it, you do it with yourself, and then you can share it with people who know you really well, like family members, patterns in yourself. So I'll share that assessment with you later when I'll drop a link in the video here, actually, when we are done. Now, these strengths taught us to stay on top of things. Now, the first pattern is what I call the independence island. Let me, there we go. Okay, so the first pattern is what I call the independence island. Now, the independence island is you pride yourself on your independence. Financial independence is a great thing, and we all need to have it. You pride yourself with it. When it's overdone, then it becomes hyper independence. Then you don't know how to receive from others. I know I recognize that pattern in myself. When you don't know how to receive from others, you build a wall, you become self sufficient. And if a strength is overdone, strengths are good. If they're overdone, then they do not serve us. So there's a limit. We need these strengths and we need to work with them, but there's a limit, there's a place we have to stop. So underneath the person who says, I've got it, I don't need anyone, I stopped asking, it was easier for me to do it alone. Underneath that, you think that if you allow anybody else to do something for you, that you're going to get disappointed, right? So we create guardedness. You know, it's the drive that gets us the success that we get in life. But at the same time, it builds a wall because you're doing it alone. You've heard that time when people say you're doing it alone, right? So that's what happens. Now, the person who was praised for their strengths is the one that says, I've got it. I don't need anyone, because they were always praised for their strengths. But the person who doesn't recognize that they have this pattern, the independence island in them, they're the ones who were disappointed when they asked. They did not get any help. Now, I'll tell you a story. Recently, my daughter had um, she was graduating from intermediate school, and they had an awards ceremony. And I received an email, put it aside and said, you know what, I'll add this to my calendar and I'll talk to her about it later. I was doing some work on my laptop here. I completely forgot to mention this to my daughter that night. Now, of course, the email disappeared in the many emails that I had that day. I completely forgot to talk about it. The day came, which was probably 3 days later. I packed up, went ahead to do my work, left the house. They went to school. I am away doing some work. Um, my friend sends me pictures at the school where they were at the awards ceremony. She sends me pictures of my daughter. I felt like dying. I was so upset at myself for missing it. And I was 45 minutes away. There was no way I was going to drive back to make it in time. So I came back home that night and I'm talking to her. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I missed your award ceremony. And she just looks at me like, oh, yeah, I forgot we had an award ceremony. And for a moment there, I was happy. I was like, okay, she's not upset. But then the more I looked at her, I thought, why does she not care that I wasn't there? You know, it's in that moment that I realized that because I am the type of person who was always doing it alone, I was always praised for my strengths and I learned to do things on my own. I realized that I am teaching my kids the same survival strategy. I notice the same thing in my 14-year-old son. When he needs to do something, he doesn't wait for no one. He learned how to take the bus. If he wants to go to the gym, before you know it, you're asking where he's hiding. You're looking around. He's not available. He's not around. You're calling him. He's like, oh, I'm at the gym. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? I'm sitting here with my car. I could have taken you. It's like, oh, I just decided to take the bus because I thought you would take longer. So I have taught my kids subconsciously not to depend on me because I don't know how to depend. I'm just learning. I am a I've been on that independent island for so long that I am learning to pull myself away from the independent island. And that's we are passing on these patterns to our kids, right? So subconsciously that's what we do. Children learn from what they see, not what they hear, right? So let's talk about the second pattern, the what next treadmill. Do you ever sit there and feel absolutely lost when you don't have anything to do in any given moment? And your brain is just spinning. What do I do now? What do I do now? Does anybody have that experience? You know, when you're just sitting there and you're thinking, all right, what do I do? When you're driving, for example, maybe you were listening to a book that you don't feel like listening to, and then your mind starts thinking, what can I listen to? What else? What can I look up on YouTube that I wanted to catch up on? What what can I? Yes, absolutely. Independence is a good thing. All of the strengths are a good thing. Independence is a good thing. However, if it is overdone, then it becomes, then it doesn't serve us. You know, if you don't learn how to depend on people, I'll give you another example. In my marriage, I did not know how to depend on my husband. I was the type of person who would go ahead and get whatever I needed, get paid for my hair all the time, bought my own clothes all the time. If he traveled, he would bring me back something. But I never thought, it was very rare that I would ask him, hey, can you buy me this? It was very rare because it was just, you know, I didn't know how to do that. And it didn't bother me that that I didn't do it until it was much later in my marriage when my marriage was falling apart. This is when I realized some of the things that I did not know how to be in a marriage. But of course, because I was a very independent woman, I married the type of person who likes an independent woman, who um, doesn't know how to I guess, who doesn't know how to be depended on either. So in moments where I needed to depend on him, he didn't know how to show up, you know? And I don't blame him for it. When it's you attract what you are, right? Rookie says I'm a twin mom, so I don't have many of those free time moments. Oh, I believe you. Free time moments are hard. Yes, she is a twin mom and her twins are young. Yes, free time is hard to find when you're a twin mom. But independence is good, but when it's overdone, it becomes hyper independence. And hyper independence does not serve us because we are humans. It's innate for us to have connection. It's very hard to fully connect with people if you cannot be dependent on fellow humans. It's innate. It's an innate need within us. All right. So going back to the what next treadmill. Now, the what next treadmill, when you rest, you feel like something is falling behind. Rukia mentioned that she's a twin. When I was getting married way back in 2004, somebody told me, I was asking for advice. I met my husband in Las Vegas, not what you're thinking. It was a Ugandan convention. It was a few hundred people there. We do these conventions annually. I haven't gone to any in a while, but during Labor Day weekend, we have a convention all over, a convention in the US somewhere, so different states. Now, back in 2002, it was in Las Vegas. And I was rooming with a friend who his friend came and joined us in, at the convention. And that's how I met my husband. It was a friend's friend. And um, oh God, I've lost my train of thought. What was I talking about on the what next treadmill? I have lost my train of thought. Let me go back to the what next treadmill, where your mind never stops, uh, where rest feels like falling behind. Now, um, oh yes, Rookie mentioned she's a twin mom, and I was trying to explain why we don't know how to rest, especially when we have children. So when I was getting married, I was in Maryland at that time, and during my baby shower, I was asking friends to tell me about the experiences in marriage. I was so scared. Moving from Maryland, my husband lived in Denver, Colorado. I was leaving my job, going to join him. In fact, I left much later. I didn't go right away. I stayed in Maryland, now had a baby in Maryland. And after I had a baby, I was like, you know what? I need to go and join him. So I needed to go and join him in Colorado. And I was very scared moving in with a baby. I've been independent for so long. I was 29 at that time, I think. And now I'm going to move in with someone. I'm going to be a husband, I mean, a wife and a mother all at the same time in one go. That was scary. So I'm asking friends um, what, the best advice they can give me, especially here in the States where you have no help from anyone in a marriage. And you know what? One of them, the advice that stood out the most is she said to me, do not try to be superwoman. And I asked her, what do you mean? She said, look, if there's a laundry basket there that needs to be put away and you're tired, don't do it. If the house is a mess, clean up whatever you can, just so your husband does it, if he's coming back from work and he's tired, just clean up whatever you can. But do not try to do everything all at the same time, all at once. Don't try to make anything perfect because at the end of the day, he's going to need your attention. You've been with baby all day long. You're going to get tired just having a child all day long. So he's going to need your attention at the end of the day. And you don't want to be too tired to connect with him. And I thought, how does that happen? So I had to learn to do that. It's very hard for us to pull away from the things that we are so used to doing by ourselves in trying to juggle that. So it's very hard. When you're sleeping, you're thinking, I have this to do, I have to do. The baby's resting, and you're thinking, you know what? Why don't I knock this out very quickly while the baby's sleeping? And then you end up getting yourself tired. And I know I used to get myself really tired, honestly. So, Rukia, thank you. That's the best advice I can give you, where you feel like you don't have time for anything. But When we are so used to being on that treadmill, running after the next thing, doing the next thing, not switching off, even when we sleep, we're thinking, what do I have to do tomorrow? What do I have to do next? When you're running a business, you have so much going on in your mind sometimes that ideas come when you're asleep, when you're getting ready to sleep, and then you wake up, pull out that notebook, and you want to write it down. During my coach, as I've been coached, I remember one of my coaches advised me and say to me, "You really don't have to get up to write it down. If it's very important, you're going to remember it. I mean, you want to remember it, you're going to remember it the next day. You're interrupting your sleep at that point. So this what next treadmill keeps us running, and we keep running. Eventually, we're going to go on empty. You cannot flourish when you keep your mind so cluttered like that. So the person who was praised for keeping busy, I was praised for keeping busy. Every time I would visit the US, I would go to my sister's house in California. My brother-in-law would tell me, "Man, you just never stop. Aren't you lucky that rather aren't you, he would praise the never stopping. I wouldn't sit there and be idle. It was, if I'm not with baby, the baby's old enough for them to take care of. I'm like, look, I'm going out for a walk. I'm going to the gym. Every time I traveled here by myself without the kids, it was always something, even when I needed to take a break and be on vacation. Now, at that time when I was in Uganda, we were running a business. So I'm coming over here for whatever reason. Even when I needed to take a break, I didn't know how to take a break. Now, the person who was never praised for being on that treadmill, constantly moving, they believe that if they stop, they're going to fall apart. Like, if I don't do this right now, I need this for my business right now. If you're running a business, how many of us go until 10 p.m. in the night, midnight, you're working on something because you need it done before tomorrow, because it's a great idea and you've come up with it now. Now you want it out of the way before the next day. If you go to work and come back and you have children, you're definitely going to be lost in, I mean, the kids keep us busy, and I cannot downplay that. And sometimes there's absolutely no moment. I see somebody there has said she's a twin mom too. Yes, they do keep us busy, and sometimes we don't know how to get away from them. But I want to ask you a question. If you are married and you're not a single mother, do you know how to take advantage of your husband to get you the free time that you need? Sometimes we don't know how to ask for that, especially African women. We were raised to be the ones who are tending to the kids all the time. And if you're married to a husband like the one I used to be married to, in a home, even here in the States, they expect you to behave, to do the same things that you would have done in Uganda, where you have house help. You do the cooking, the cleaning, you attend to everything and attend to them and attend to the kids, right? But you can learn. You can learn to pull back. You can learn to be a rebel and get them involved. And you've heard the saying that we teach people how to treat us, right? So as mothers, that what next treadmill just keeps us going because we think we have to, but we don't have to. Everything we need to do, we do because we want to do it, not because we have to do it. All right. So if rest feels like something that you have to earn, then you have the patterns that are keeping you on the what next treadmill. Now, the last um, um, trap is the default CEO. That's the person who says, if I don't do it, no one will, right? If you've said that to yourself, then you are in that trap. Rukia says, absolutely. It helps to have a reliable partner. It makes it easier. Yes, it does. So ask. If you don't know how to ask, learn how to ask. So the what next treadmill, or rather the default CEO, is the one that jumps in so fast and fixes something, doesn't wait for anyone to do it for them because they don't know how to wait for somebody else to intervene or even ask somebody else to intervene. You know, if I don't do it, it won't get it done. That's control, by the way. It is control, but we feel like we deserve or we earn that control. But control is the counterfeit of trust. When you are controlling every aspect of your life or every aspect of your ecosystem, that means you're not trusting anyone to do it. I want you to think about that for a moment. That means you're letting others, rather, the message you're carrying across to the other person is you cannot do it. You think you're doing them a favor, but the message you're carrying is you cannot do it. Again, I am full of stories, right? Because these are patterns that I've recognized in myself. When my children were younger, I was the one who used to do the birthdays, right? I would prepare everything and just let my husband know, oh, so and so's birthday is coming up, and this is what I have planned. I would never get him involved because, in all honesty, he did not grow up in a family that celebrated birthdays. Neither did I. But we learned how to celebrate birthdays with my siblings. Somehow we forged the way somehow in our later years. Now, kids that we are raising nowadays, their friends are throwing parties, right? So I would just go ahead and do it because I was like, I'm doing him a favor. I don't want to bother him because this is not something he was used to doing, right? Oh, somebody says, but this was 10 years ago. Now I am free. Oh, aren't you lucky? Your teens are grown. I mean, your twins are grown. So, yeah, I would just let him know that, hey, or if I needed to travel, if I wanted to travel somewhere, he wasn't the type of person, he did not like traveling. And in the beginning of the marriage, I would want to pull him, drag him with me. Come on, let's go here, let's go here. He just wasn't that type of person. So then I got into the habit of doing it by myself. I would plan a trip and be like, look, I am going to, I'm going to the US in a couple of weeks. And that's it, right? When I was going to Hajj, I challenged myself and I said, you know what? I am not going to do this. I'm not I want him to be a part of this. I planned it by myself, by the way. Didn't even get him involved. It was like, you know what? I think I'm ready to go to Hajj. I can afford it now. And I was challenged. That's a story for another day, but I was challenged to take that trip. And when I was going to Hajj, I would say to him, this is how I was teaching myself, uh, you know, sometimes recognizing that I am hyper independent. Then I would say to him, um, I say to him, I'm going to Saudi Arabia. I'm going to Mecca, Medina. The best gold is comes from out of there. I would love for you to buy me some gold. And he gave me money to buy gold, and I was thinking, wow, oh, so I can, it was. I received it, but it was also a shock, right? But there are times we don't give people opportunity to do certain things because we feel we are doing them a favor. Yeah, Miss Independent indeed. Oh God, yes, I sure was. I'm a recovering independent, hyper independent. So yeah, we don't know. For some of us, we don't know how to depend on other people. If I don't do it, no one will, and that's what we carry with us. And it works. It works in so many ways, but it becomes a trap. All right. Now, what you want to do is be able to recognize if any of these patterns that you may have, but you're unaware, right? When we push harder, we make it worse. It becomes when we think, I'm going to give you an example of how the mind works. When you think, and to be honest, I'm even worse, Hanifa, nice to hear that I have somebody I can relate with. Now these patterns, this is what happens with the patterns on a loop. Assuming I had a client call recently and they left their job they volunteered to leave their job because they were fed up, they were disconnected, they were burning out. And as she was talking to me, she's telling me, I can't be waking up and not knowing what to do next. I need to do something. I can't, it frightens me to just be there not knowing what to do. And from where I'm sitting, I can see what's going on in her mind. Everything she's saying is, I have to get out. I need to do this. I want to do this. I must do this. So those, I should, I must, I have to, those three words, they force life on you. They keep you in that strength trap because you think, I must, I should, I must, and that it creates that feeling which drives a lot of anxiety. It drives a lot of activity in your life. And then because you're driving a lot of activity in your life, you become this hyperactive person who cannot separate this, who can't even sit down to think your own thoughts, or to sit down with your own thoughts. You cannot be alone. The example I have here on the screen is, I shouldn't need anyone. When you think I shouldn't need anyone, if you think about that for a minute, I want you to take that statement and put it in your mind right now. I shouldn't need anyone. Does that make you feel, connected, loving, caring? It takes all that away from us. It creates a guarded feeling. So you become walled off. And then the action becomes handling it. You do it by yourself. And when you do it by yourself, guess what? You're creating aloneness in your life. The pattern becomes, I am now alone. You know, and that's how we disconnect from others, intentionally, rather unintentionally, not knowing, subconsciously, because the brain has used this as a survival mode for the longest time. And then in the end, it becomes the trap that holds us hostage. you know, I shouldn't need anyone. And as I've told you before, I noticed that I was doing this with my children. My 14-year-old, he doesn't wait around. Now I'm sitting him down every time I notice that he's running around without asking any help. He went ahead and applied for jobs a few days ago. He's 14. He feels like, I want to make my own money. So he applied for jobs. He got responses. Um, he comes to the living room and he tells me, Mommy, I've just recorded a video response, which I was asked. I got a response back. I need to record a video talking about why I would be a good fit for the company. And I've just recorded it and sent it. And of course, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, goodness gracious, Lord, why didn't you ask me? But that's what I have taught him. I was a recruiter for 10 years. And he somehow doesn't know that, of course. He's 14. I had to sit him down and explain to him again what I used to do. And I had to sit him down and tell him, I need you to ask me for help. Let's talk about the most important things in your life. In fact, before I teach him how to ask for help, it's tell me about the most important things in your life, right? So this is what we do when we are hyper independent, when we don't know how to ask for help. We are carrying on parents, and we are carrying them on to our children if we have children. Now, in order for us to get patterns, I want you to, de- if you have downloaded the workbook, right, go ahead and take a look at the workbook. And let me guide you through it. I have myself a hard copy here because I don't know how to move. I'm sharing a screen, so I can't go on my screen, and I am only working with one screen. I'm going to run through what the workbook says, and we shall be closing. So the workbook is just a one page. Where do you recognize yourself in these patterns, right? I rated myself a 7 on the Independence Island because I feel I still have a lot more work to do, because now I'm recognizing the patterns in my children. I'm like, okay, we've got a lot more work to do. On the what next treadmill, where do you see yourself on the what next treadmill? I want you to think about that. Rate yourself in your mind, or in the workbook, or on a piece of paper. You have the workbook, you can do this later. Where do you see yourself in the default CEO space? Why I rated myself a 7? I access to edit the workbook. I am going to share with you a link so you can download it, because if I give you access to edit it, you will be, I need to find that. I close the page where I have the link. At the end of the session, I'm going to share a link so you can download it. Because if I give you access to, what I shared was in my drive, but I'm going to share one that you can download and edit. So rate yourself. I rated myself default CEO 7. I'm a single mother. I'm learning to let go. I'm learning not to do it all by myself, even I am here with the children. And I consciously try to think of moments that I can take advantage. and ask them to call their dad when there's a need, but also to call him and update him on what's going on in their lives, and to call him and let him know if we need any disciplinary intervention, even little things. I'm not waiting for the big things. I'm trying to start to think I need to give him an update on this. What do I update him on today? They're athletes, so I'm constantly letting them know how they're performing. When I have a conversation with their coaches, I call him and let him know how the conversation went. I'm learning, and I guess I'm preparing for my next marriage. Who knows? So, have I thought about that? I think about it. I left it to God, though. We'll see how that goes. I want to be in. I'm learning to receive from Dr. Hind is teaching me how to fully learn how to receive, and I believe I've made a lot of strides. So, there are reflection questions in the workbook. Look at your highest rated pattern. What has this strength given you? And what did it quietly cost you? Think about that. You're going to take time to think about these. Without overthinking it, you're going to complete a statement. If I first learned I had to be this strong when, if you recognize these patterns in you, I first learned, go back in your childhood and try to think about when you started to practice these strengths or survival strategies. I love you too, Dr. Hind. And I am here because of Dr. Hind. Did I tell you all, the ones who were not able to join us at the beginning, in the very first few minutes, Dr. Hind challenged me to do this masterclass, and I was like, sure, let me go for it. I've never done one, so this is my first one. And I appreciate that you all showed up for my first one. So if this pattern disappeared tomorrow, what feeling comes up? Is it relief? Is it fear? Is it both? I want you to pay close attention to that pattern. And if you're holding on to it, right, and you're afraid to let it go, what's behind that fear of letting it go? I think I learned to be strong for myself in boarding. Yes. Oh my God, you joined boarding school at 5 years old? Oh my God, that was too early. I failed to take my kids to boarding school, even in secondary school. Now, I was in Uganda until 2023. That's when I returned. So I had a teenager who was in secondary school, what we call secondary school or high school. They joined secondary school at 14. And we wanted to put him in boarding school to give him teach him a little independence. He's the firstborn. I felt he was a little too spoiled. He was a brat. I pulled him out after 2 years. I couldn't do it. I'm like, no, it's teens. Actually, I was going through a lot of coaching during that period. And that's when I learned that teenagers need us way more than the younger ones. As they struggle to go through the adolescent stage, they need us way more than the younger ones. I pulled him out, couldn't do it. So going to boarding school at such a young age, absolutely. That teaches you a whole lot of independence. I have a sister who went to boarding school at a very young age. And yes, hyper independence is her thing. So if these patterns disappear tomorrow, what comes up? Is it relief? Is it fear? Is it both? What does that tell you? This week, tell one person without explaining or minimizing that you are tired of carrying something alone. Think about that something. Take the next brave step and tell someone you're tired of carrying something alone. Now, that is it for today. If you have any questions, I am open to questions. Any additions? Thank you so much for the interaction in the chat. This has been a well received first try. I am so happy that you all could join me. So, any additions, any questions, I am fully open to answering them. And you can always send me an email, by the way, if you want to ask privately. Oh, thank you, Angelique. Thank you. Oh, the questions. Hanifa, let me go ahead and find the workbook. I'm going to share it right now, if I can remember where it is. All right. I'm going to share the link right now. You can go ahead and download the workbook. Please think about it. Take your time with it. There's so many things, so many patterns that we practice, or rather that are so conditioned in us that we are not aware of. And once you start to see what these patterns are doing for you, it's powerful to make that change. Very powerful. Thank you so much. Somebody said, "This is so amazing for a first try. Congratulations." Thank you for, yes, I have so many stories. Stories that I would like for you to see that I'm not perfect at all. And I'm doing this because of the lessons I've learned during my transitions, during my period, my period of transition, my divorce, my hyperactivity when I was running a business with two partners that we spread to 6 countries. Man, that was amazing when I did it. And I got absolutely disconnected by the end, and I had to separate. I had to find myself. I had to rediscover myself. So, because it was leading me to burnout. Oh, I learned that at that time I was in hyperactive mode, running a business in hyperactive mode. I was so, it was, I was impressing my dad, but also the status quo. How do they see me not being this? And for 10 years, I lived the business. I lived in that business and did really well because my strength pushed me to do really well, along with my partners. But 10 years down the road, I was so exhausted from performance, what we call performance. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I talk about performance a lot. Performance comes from hyperactivity. Um, we feel we, our worth comes from achieving, right? So that's why I talk about performance a lot. What do you do when you feel empty from the pattern of having to carry a lot of weight? When asking for help has become draining. Oh, I can almost feel that as I read it. You know, sometimes, the question I want to tackle there is when asking for help has become draining. That says a lot. So the question I want to ask there is, why has it become draining? What is it? What are the symptoms behind the word draining? What do you mean by draining? Is it that when you ask for help, is it that you feel like you're asking for help constantly and maybe your partner is not recognizing or not learning that they don't need to, you don't need to ask for help in certain incidences to be, that you want them to recognize that you need help so that they jump in without you asking? Because is it that you feel that that constant asking has become a nagging feeling? you know so there's so many questions behind that I would dig into. Now, if it is, I feel like I'm nagging every time I ask for help, that statement right there, I feel like I'm nagging, when you operate from that thought, you actually become nagging. But instead, how about you think, I deserve to be helped, and I'm asking because I deserve to be helped? Then you're not going to be nagging. You ask for help and things don't get done to where you resort. So okay, again, behind that, it could be that things don't get done to the way you want them to get done, or things just don't get done. And you jump in and do it yourself. Now, again, the questions I would ask you there is, do you have to jump in? How can you give yourself grace and not jump in and do it yourself? And give yourself permission to accept that it is not getting done and I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to be okay with not doing it. But if it's something that has to get done, how are you negotiating with your partner to get him to meet you halfway? You know, so those are the things that we crack. When I'm working with one on one, I want to give you an opportunity, Rukia, to um, send me an email or text me, WhatsApp, or whatever, and we can have a lengthier discussion on this. But those are the things that what I want you to take away from here is, whenever you ask for help, I want you to believe that you deserve it. If there's anything else, I want you to believe that you deserve that help. I'm asking for help because I deserve it, not because, you know, I wish that the person could learn that I need help so that they can help. You deserve it. So if you ask for help from that perspective, the brain is going to teach you how to be able to ask for what you want and get it. Does that make sense? The brain will teach you once you say you believe I'm asking for help because I deserve it. The brain will teach you to come up with ways or strategies to make sure that you ask for what you want in a way that you're going to get it. All right. But if you think I am being nagging and then sometimes you pull back and sometimes you don't ask, you're being inconsistent in the way you're asking for your help. And that person can feel that inconsistency. So they play around with your inconsistencies. They respond based on, or they react based on how you're responding to how you're asking for help. Does that make sense? So what we think creates our reality. If you think you're nagging when you're asking for help, then you're going to be nagging because your entire vibration is going to feel like you're nagging and you're going to show up as nagging. But if it's something that you deserve, it's going to be, I deserve this help. So you better get it done. I'm not encouraging you to speak that way. But what I'm saying is your negotiation is going to come from um, a stronger position. You're going to have power, truth to power that I deserve this help. And they are going to reciprocate. They're going to feel that you deserve the help and they're going to reciprocate. All right. Negotiation becomes easier when when we feel that we deserve what we're asking for. All right. Any other questions? What time is it now? 10:58. We have 2 minutes. Any other questions? Let's not carry a lot of weight. For those of us who do, for those of you who have learned not to carry weight, we want to learn from you as well. We would love to learn from you as well. So thank you. Thank you. Next one is tomorrow, I believe. Is it 10 a.m., 9 a.m.? I don't remember my own schedule. But if you did register, you received an email with all of the times we're going to have these classes. I really appreciate you all joining me today. It's been amazing. And there's more where this is going to come from. I'm going to drop the replay in my what do you call that community? I'm forgetting my own stuff. What do you call it? I have it down in the links. I mentioned the community in the links, I'm sure. But yes, school community. That's where I'm going to have the replays. So you will have access to the replays. And in the school community, by the way, you have access to me. You can ask me any question. I'll give you a lot of support within the school community, free of charge. It's a free community. It's not a paid community. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And please share the link with anybody else that you feel might benefit from this. All right. Have a happy 4th tomorrow. I'll see you in the morning. Bye bye. Thank you so much, Dr. Hand, for the courage. I appreciate you. Mwah. All right. Bye bye.